Little Texas, August. The chanting had stopped, and with that, Joey and Jason looked at each other, afraid of what they might face in the seconds ahead. Was she still alive? Yet their resolve had won the battle of the what-ifs earlier that day. It was a rare occasion when Jason considered the well-being of anyone else. His humanity was showing like a big red pimple on a nose, disgusting him. He also felt the need to be there for his best friend, Joey. He wasn't going to allow him to go in and rescue this weird chick all alone. He had to help. Joey would do the same for him. With their suspicions confirmed the day before, they hid in silence behind the aging trash cans in the yard. The stench was enough to make them wince and cover their mouths and noses with the fronts of their t-shirts. Their breathing had grown shallow, and their hearts raced in anticipation. There was no turning back now. Sarah needed rescuing. She had to be freed from the hell she likely faced her entire life. They would be her knights in shining armor. At least, Joey thought so. This fair-haired girl had somehow struck a chord in their adolescent minds, though she seemed a bit off when their curiosity got the better of them just 3 days ago. That was the day they saw the moving truck pass through town and over to the old greenhouse on East Elm. As nice and pretty as Sarah was, nobody wore Little House on the Prairie dresses anymore. Over the past 3 days, they met up with her at the end of her driveway, and judging from their conversations, she was an innocent. Instinct told them something wasn't right about her home situation. Joey voiced his concern. "I don't know, man. Something about the whole thing is just weird, right?" "Yeah, and why doesn't she ever leave the driveway? It's like she's afraid she'll turn into ash if she steps past it, like a friggin' vampire or something," Jason added. "Nah, I don't think she's a vampire. She's definitely something, though." Yet, here they were in the dark, searching for answers, waiting behind 3 garbage cans in her driveway at 9:25 on a warm South Texas night. They heard several voices chanting from inside the old weathered house. "Dude, what the fuck?" Jason whispered, looking wide-eyed at Joey. They both stared back at the screen door and dimly lit windows of the house. Prior to leaving Jason's place, they packed flashlights and pocket knives for protection. Joey hoped he wouldn't need to use his small blue Swiss Army knife. Jason, on the other hand, hoped one of them would try something. He wanted to know what it was like to stab somebody, although inside he was as frightened now as his pudgy sidekick. The lifelong friends lived in the small town of Little, Texas, population 2,694. Little was a town that thrived due to the oil business. Jason's dad was a field supervisor for Halliburton. Joey's dad, on the other hand, worked as an assistant manager for H-E-B, the local grocery store chain. The two families weren't particularly close. However, they were accommodating to the two best friends. Day 1. On a hot Texas Saturday morning in August, Joey rode his bike through Little to Jason's house. Jason lived in a nicer part of Little, which was why Joey enjoyed staying there more so than at his own house. Joey pedaled up to Jason's driveway, meeting him outside. Upon his arrival, Jason picked up his bike. The heat made Joey sweat profusely from every crevice, soaking his shirt, prompting Jason to make fun of him, laughing. "You're sweating like a hog, Joey. You nervous or something?" "Dude, sit and spin," Joey sneered, holding up his middle finger to Jason. Had anyone else done this to Jason, he would have instantly rushed in to fight. Joey, however, was his only friend and knew just how hard friends were to come by. If Joey responded to his joking and teasing with the usual middle finger, or a screw you, or bite me, it was likely deserved. "Hey, I saw a moving truck go up to East Elm just before you got here. Let's go check it out." Jason pointed to Elm, with a tilt of his head. Joey raised his eyebrows in surprise, and responded with, "Yeah, okay." With that, the boys mounted their bikes and pedaled as hard as they could up the steep hill leading up to East Elm Street. This street was known as Dead Man's Curve, due to the very sharp turn just before ascending up deep into a dark wooded area. Several deaths were credited to the sharp turn over the years, but this never kept kids from riding their bikes up the steep, lonely road. Once they arrived at the top of the hill, they looked to the lot just to the right. The old greenhouse had been vacant for years. Now there were signs of life, as a large moving truck sat backed up to the front steps. Just as Jason was about to speak, a girl ran out of the house and over to the boys. She looked to be about their age, 12 or 13. She had strong Nordic features with long blonde hair. She wore an old off-white dress that looked like it came from Little House on the Prairie. She began to wave as she ran towards Jason and Joey. They noticed immediately how pretty she was and raised their eyebrows in shock. Hi there, she called out. When she stopped in front of the boys, she extended her hand and introduced herself. I'm Sarah Campbell.
I'm Jason. This is Joey.
Jason shook Sarah's hand, nearly forgetting how to speak. Joey reached for Sarah's hand to shake it and said,
Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Sarah smiled, eager to make new friends. It was slightly unnerving for the boys to look into her eyes, almost as if they were looking down into their souls. She didn't seem like your usual run-of-the-mill little girl. She was very friendly for a pretty girl. The pretty girls at Little Junior High were all stuck up.
So, where did you move from?
Jason asked, in an attempt to break the ice. Sarah looked at Joey, trying to disguise her fear at his question.
We came from Travis County.
Joey immediately followed with, Hey, isn't that where the Texas Chainsaw?
Dude, shut up.
Jason interrupted before Joey could finish.
Sorry about that, Joey. He has Tourette's syndrome.
Jason apologized. Sarah giggled.
No, I don't.
Joey retorted at Jason, embarrassed.
You two are funny. Hey, would you like to come out and meet my folks?
Sarah asked. The boys looked at each other for a moment.
Nah, that's okay. Maybe some other time,
Jason replied. Visibly disappointed, Sarah said,
Yeah, maybe another time then.
Well, we gotta go, Sarah. Maybe we'll see you around town? Joey said, trying to be cool. Sarah's bright smile dimmed a little, and as the boys pedaled down towards Dead Man's Curve, she shouted,
Will you be back tomorrow?
Maybe, Jason shouted back as they rode away. Day 2. Little consisted mostly of Catholics and Baptists. If you weren't one or the other, you were looked down upon. Little was full of secrets, though. Everyone in town grew up with various ghost stories and tall tales, like Old Broken Bones Pete, Fang Baby of Old Pearsall Road, and the Brecht family, who previously occupied the house Sarah was now living in. Little had its fair share of secrets indeed. Sarah was very mysterious. Perhaps she had her own secrets hidden beneath her lovely, naive surface. Jason and Joey both were intrigued by her. What could she be hiding? After riding back to town, the friends both agreed they would go back the next day and try to get a read on her. Sarah was a summer mystery begging to be solved. The boys' conversation raced between theories of Sarah's family being inbreds who just happened to have a pretty daughter, to her family being cannibals or sideshow freaks.
Maybe she has a Siamese twin we couldn't see,
Joey suggested.
Or maybe they're cannibals. Maybe she was trying to get us to go inside, and then whack, dinner time.
Jason brought his right hand down into his left in a hatchet motion. The boys didn't attend church on a regular basis, so they met the next day at Jason's house.
Mom, we're going out riding,
Jason shouted at his front door.
Okay, honey, be careful. Be back at noon in time for lunch. You're welcome too, Joey,
Mandy shouted back. Her voice was kind and sincere. He thought about his own mother. Sometimes she showed a slight maternal instinct. She drank now due to spells of depression.
Thanks, Mrs. Pruitt,
Joey shouted with a smile on his face.
I don't think we have fatso food, Joey,
Jason said, ruining the moment.
Shut it, dickweed,
Joey retorted and punched him in the arm. As they pedaled through town side by side, Joey thought about his mother and how he wished she would quit drinking. The late-night fights while he slept, the slamming of doors, the look on his dad's face, wanting to give up, doing his best to keep things together. It was enough to make a boy eat his feelings. Why couldn't Mrs. Pruitt be his mother? Jason's family was so nice. He swore they were switched at birth. Hey man, sorry about what I said earlier. Jason interrupted his train of thought. On occasion, Jason showed some sign of humanity. It gave Joey hope that maybe his buddy wasn't a total douchebag. Jason waited in silence for a forgiving answer. Yeah, Joey said, half-heartedly. East Elm was in full view in front of them. They stood now, pedaling harder and faster for momentum. Joey hated this part, but was determined to beat this hill once and for all. He began grunting, making known his determination. Come on, man, Jason yelled out while Joey struggled to pedal behind him. I will beat you. You got it. You got it, Joey grunted, using his anger as fuel. Woohoo! Jason called out as Joey slowly reached the top of the hill, out of breath. Joey positioned himself on the side of the road, both feet stepping on the weeds. Hey, getting easier, right? Jason slapped Joey's arm with the back of his hand. Still catching his breath, Joey nodded his head in agreement. They rested for a moment, looking ahead at Sarah's mailbox. It was old and weathered. The pole it was fastened to was rusted and wouldn't hold up much longer. 3 beaten-up old tin garbage cans lay nearby. They were empty and not returned the day prior on trash day. Ready? Jason asked. Yeah, ready. Joey began pedaling towards Sarah's driveway. As they slowly approached, Sarah was waiting on the front steps in a sleeveless blue and white floral patterned dress. Breaking to a stop near the mailbox, the boys were unnerved by what they saw. Sarah's entire left arm was painted bright blue. Okay, Jason said, facing Joey, never looking away from Sarah. Be cool, Joey whispered as Sarah ran gracefully to them. Sarah was as cheerful and bubbly as yesterday, the boys staring at her arm. Hi guys, what's new? She seemed totally oblivious to the very noticeable sight of her bright blue arm. Not much. Why's your arm blue? Jason asked with content. The image of the smiling girl with a brightly painted blue arm, acting like it was nothing out of the ordinary, was even more of a mystery now. Sarah looked down at her arm and then up at her shoulder. That? My brother bet me $20 I wouldn't paint my arm blue and leave it for the rest of the day. Joey stared in amusement. That's wild, he said, earning a smile and a thanks from Sarah. In seeing their momentary connection, Jason butted in with, So, have you been to town yet? Sarah looked back at Jason. No, I haven't. Daddy says I can't leave the driveway. Her smile dimmed into a forced smile. You have a brother? How old is he? What's his name? Jimmy Lee, Sarah answered in haste. An awkward silence filled the space between them. Joey broke the silence. Where is he? Can we meet him? Sarah's attitude went from defensive to slightly jealous. He's older than me, 15, and no, he can't come out just now. He's shy around strangers. Jason's wild imagination took over his mouth just then. Why? Is he retarded or something? Joey looked over at him, shocked. You did not just say that. Sarah's patience was growing thin, not to mention she was visibly offended by Jason's question. No, he's not retarded. He's just shy is all, she said, looking at the ground. In an attempt to be funny, Joey said, Sorry, Jason has Tourette's today. It jumps back and forth. Tomorrow it's my turn. Sarah laughed out loud. You're cute. Joey felt his heartbeat quicken, his eyes blank for a second, then lighting up as he fully absorbed Sarah's words. Jason's eyes filled with anger as he could feel his heart break just a little. Sarah thought Lunchbox was cute, but never mentioned anything about him. Not wanting to hurt his feelings, Sarah continued. You both are cute. This brightened him up. So, what do you guys do for fun around here? I mean, I can't exactly leave here and find out on my own. Sarah shifted to her left hip, waiting for a response. Just then, a raspy voice called out from inside the ragged house. Sarah, time to come in now. I gotta go. I'll see you tomorrow, guys, Sarah said in haste. Coming, Mama! And with that, she turned and ran down the dreary driveway back to the house, the screen door slamming behind her. Something was definitely not right about the situation. It felt very icky to them. Riding back into town, Joey couldn't help but recall Sarah's words, "You're cute." Her words played like a broken record. Her smile haunted him. He felt his heartbeat race again. He felt that familiar nervousness in his chest and throat, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that just maybe Sarah needed their help. Jason was consoled by Sarah's "You're both cute" comment. He could sense, though, that any chance he thought he may have had with her was now inherited by Joey. She's weird anyway. They deserve each other, he thought, trying to distance himself from the thoughts of her. Hey, did you get the feeling like something was wrong there? Joey looked to his left side, where Jason slowly pedaled his bike. Jason pondered for a moment, hoping he could just ignore his gut feeling. Yeah, but so what? She's weird anyway, man. Joey shook his head. Nah, man, I don't know. I think there's something bad going on there. He slowed his pace to a stop. Jason stopped next to him. Like what? He asked, expecting confirmation of his suspicion, one he felt in his gut but wanted to ignore. Okay, she can't go past her driveway. Her clothes look like something out of the Old West. She's way too nice for being that pretty. And something about that house. Like, her parents aren't good people. Also, what about her brother? You think we'd have seen him by now? Joey questioned Jason. He's probably a retard, like I said. They probably keep him inside because they're embarrassed. Joey thought for a moment. Yeah, maybe. I still want to go back tomorrow. Ooh, Mr. Stud Muffin. Should have known you liked him weird, Jason teased, trying to get a rise out of Joey as he continued pedaling on down Main Street. Yeah, guess that explains why I hang out with you, huh? Joey yelled out, pedaling to try to catch up with Jason. Day 3. Monday came and Jason was up by 7 a.m. Jason wolfed down his bowl of rice checks and was out the door headed to Joey's house. Morning was always the best part of the day to get out if you were going to go riding. Although it was hot and humid, the wind still managed to partner up with your sweat and cool you down as you rode. It was known as Mexican air conditioning in Texas. You also referred to holes in the armpits of your shirts as such. Along the way, Jason hoped Sarah's spell of intrigue had lost its luster for Joey. He noticed the faint smell of death emanating from the old Robinson place along the way. He had passed it hundreds of times, likely thousands over the years. Once he and Joey had actually rode their bikes up to it. They grew up with the old rumors of Old Broken Bones Pete and how his family was murdered. His bones were broken and he was shot in the back in that tiny rotted house. Neither of them had ever had the stones to go inside. He figured he would distract Joey by suggesting they explore the Robinson place today. As he arrived at Joey's front yard, he met with Celeste, Joey's alcoholic mother, sitting on the porch. Is Joey home? He called out from a safe distance. No, he left about an hour ago. I think he went up to see that new girl up on Dead Man's Curve. She hollered back from the porch, already sounding tipsy. Thanks. Jason stared right into her eyes all the way from the yard, with disgust and contempt. Hey, you got something to say to me? She raised her voice as she struggled to stand up. Jason didn't bother looking back as he rode away. He knew ignoring her would hurt her more than a good argument. What the hell is he up to? He thought. Riding through Little, he looked around at all the daily happenings. The delivery trucks roaring through Main Street, old-timers sitting in the convenience store drinking hot coffee and reading the newspaper, middle-aged moms jogging down the sidewalks and streets. Other kids rode their bikes around town. People were going in and out of the mom-and-pop restaurants all around Main Street for breakfast. Dead Man's Curve was now in sight. He was 100 yards away from the bottom when he saw Joey riding downhill. As they closed the distance, his eyes met with Jason's. "Aw, shit," he thought. Jason pedaled faster, closing the distance halfway. "Dude," he said, as if questioning him, looking at him with eyes enlarged and eyebrows raised. I know. Dude, you went without me?" He mocked Jason, who was a little surprised at his friend's sarcasm. "So, did you have a good time up there, lunchbox?" He knew this would hurt him more than the cursing or yelling. Joey stared at him for a second. "Whatever, man. Do you want to start today, or do you want to hear about the shit I just saw at Sarah's house? I think she's in some kind of trouble, man." "What, did you finally meet Jimmy Lee, or Jimmy John Joe, or Johnny Joe Jim Bob?" Jason joked. No. Sarah had bruises on her arms, man. She acted like nothing was even wrong. Joey looked at Jason with concern. Jason shook his head. Yeah, I had a feeling too that something wasn't right. That doesn't mean we need to go get involved. It's not our problem. When you're the fat kid, you don't have many opportunities for friends or romance. So when a pretty girl showed some interest in him, Joey wanted to do everything he could to show her he cared and liked her. So what if she was a little strange? At least she was nice, friendly, pretty, and didn't treat him like dirt. I think we should tell somebody at least, like the cops. Jason nodded his head in agreement. Let's go. Sheriff Allen summed up the boys' statement. All right, boys, so what you're telling me is that you've been hanging out with the new girl from East Elm, and this morning she comes out with bruises all over her arms. Yes, was Joey's response. Jason, did you see this too? No, I met Joey at the bottom of Dead Man's Curve when he told me. Sheriff Allen stared at Jason and took a deep breath. He looked up at his deputy, Chris Priest. Wait here a minute, boys, he said as he walked over to Deputy Priest. He leaned in close and whispered, I knew something wasn't right about those folks. Silence followed. They both knew what they were obligated to do as officers of the law. Deputy Priest knew his boss was a natural-born lawman. He always seemed to have a sixth sense about something going on, even when it wasn't apparent. He had a lot of respect for him as his mentor. He walked out to the patrol car ahead of the sheriff. Boys, I want you to go on home. Deputy Priest and I are going to take a ride out there now, he said as he walked them towards the station door. His cowboy boots clanked loudly on the floor as he walked. But will you let us know if Sarah's okay? She's our friend. Joey stopped, awaiting an answer. He has a crush on her, Jason chimed in. Sheriff Allen smiled and nodded. Yes, you'll be the first to know, Joey. Now head on home. Satisfied with his response, hoping they did some good, Joey and Jason replied, Yes, sir. In Texas, you were taught to show respect to your elders. Even Jason had respect for the sheriff. Now all they could do was go back to Joey's house and wait. About an hour later, Sheriff Allen and Deputy Priest came back into town. When they arrived at Joey's house, the boys were waiting outside and talking. Upon seeing the patrol car, they walked up awaiting an answer. Joey's expression grew more concerned. Did you see Sarah? Is she okay? He looked in the back of the car for her. Why isn't she with you? He became frantic. Son, when we went up to check, they said they didn't have a daughter. When I asked if we could search their property, they said, not without a warrant. Sheriff Allen explained. Well, can't you get one? We need to help her, Joey shouted. Now, boys, are you sure you actually saw and spoke to a girl up there at that greenhouse on the right? The first house? Yes, sir. We saw her every day since they moved in on Saturday. Jason didn't today because I left my house early to see her alone. What, man, I didn't want you making fun of me or ruining it for me, he said, turning his head as he spoke to Jason. Whatever, lunchbox, he said as he tried to brush off his friend's remark. Dude, I told you before. Quit calling me lunchbox, he shouted. Hey, all right, boys, knock it off, the sheriff intervened. Oh, and she said she had an older brother there, too. He lives there, too. Jimmy Lee. Sheriff looked at him, puzzled, then looked at Deputy Priest with the same look. Nah, can't be. They said they had a son named Jimmy Lee, but he died as a baby. Said they didn't have any other children. Upon hearing this, everyone's blood ran cold. We gotta get that warrant, Chris, now, Sheriff Allen said as they both quickly entered the patrol car. Stay here, boys. The car sped off towards the police station. As they watched them speed away, Joey, still staring ahead, said, I'm not waiting for them. It could take too long to get a warrant, right? I want to go up there myself. We can save her, Jason. Jason looked at him for a moment with intense eyes. His gaze shifted towards the ground. Okay, man. Let's do it. He extended his hand in front of him. Joey, now feeling stronger, more confident, with his best friend's response, locked hands with him and said, Fuck yeah. The rescue. What the fuck is that chanting? Jason whispered, looking at Joey. Be quiet. Joey held up his index finger to his lips. The darkness surrounded them as they hid behind the old garbage cans. The sounds they heard coming from the old greenhouse were something like they heard in old B-horror movies. Also, the voice of a man could be heard preaching as the chanting continued. And we give you this offering, O Dark Lord, in hopes you will grant us prosperity and protection in this new home. More than just two voices were chanting. It sounded like it could be at least four. Suddenly, the unmistakable sound of a girl's muffled scream came from inside the house. Sarah! Joey whispered out as he began to stand up and move toward the house just to be pulled down by Jason. Dude, we gotta distract them. I'll throw rocks at the window and lure them out. They'll chase me downhill, and you go in and get her. Jason planned to help his friend. He knew deep down it was the right thing to do. Joey was on the verge of losing it. Hey, Jason whispered, trying to be quiet. Did you hear me? Huh? Joey. He had his hands on Joey's shoulders, shaking him back into rational thinking. Did you hear me? Joey looked up at Jason. Yeah. You throw rocks, they chase you down the hill. I go save Sarah. Let's go. Yeah, that's right. Okay. You ready? Ready. Jason picked up 4 medium-sized rocks, looked over at Joey and said, Stay there until they chase me down the hill. Joey nodded his head. Here it goes. Jason walked up to the house with resolve. Joey braced himself for what was to transpire in mere seconds. Hey, you satanic inbred bitches! Fuck you! He yelled to the top of his lungs as he threw all 4 rocks at their windows, one right after the other, shattering 2 windows. The chanting had stopped as soon as he began yelling. Upon the shattering of the windows, an older man dressed in men's clothes from the same period as Sarah's clothes ran out of the house with a large knife. A woman they recognized as Sarah's mother followed the man. Come on, motherfuckers! Jason yelled, not even moving from his spot. They ran towards him with their knives ready. The sound of police sirens could be heard echoing through town, in the distance getting closer. Jason ran over to his bike, picking it up, mounting it, and trying to pedal. They were closing in and would definitely kill him. There was no way he would make it. He had misjudged the timing. Joey looked down to the right as he saw the blue and red lights of a police car headed their way. Thinking quickly, Joey wrapped his arms around the trash cans, stood up and threw them at the man and woman. This slowed them down as they fell, but not for long. They looked at Joey standing in the driveway, caught like a deer in headlights. As they picked themselves up, he began to hightail it towards the street. The sound of the police sirens was at its peak, and the red and blue lights flashed all around the darkness. Joey just ran towards the lights, not thinking, just screaming. Freeze! Came from behind the lights. Joey, still in survival mode, stopped. The couple didn't. Freeze now! Get down, Joey! Joey dove to the left into the street. Several gunshots yelled out through the night air. Joey was curled up in a ball, shaking, crying. After what seemed like several minutes, he heard 2 thuds hit the ground just behind him. Several footsteps ran to him, calling out, Joey, are you okay, son? It was Sheriff Allen's voice. Jason, stay back! Deputy Priest yelled. Joey opened his eyes, looking up, then around, spotting Deputy Priest squatting next to him. He looked over to his right to find the sheriff checking the fallen bodies of the knife-wielding man and woman. They were not moving. Sarah! He motioned to the house. Deputy, go check. Sheriff Allen pointed at the house. Upon entering the house with his service pistol drawn, where he heard a girl's muffled screams for help, Deputy Priest was sucker punched by a stench of death. He saw a girl around 12 years old laying on her stomach on the floor on top of a black plastic tarp. She had been hog-tied with rope and her mouth gagged. Black-lit candles lay everywhere around the room. Sitting in a chair nearby, surrounding the living room, was the freshly exhumed corpse of a man, judging by his old, rotted gray suit. A black book with the name The Satanic Bible on the front cover lay on the sofa. This scene was unlike anything he had ever witnessed in his 3 years as deputy. Watching crime movies like Seven and Silence of the Lambs wouldn't prepare him for seeing this kind of horror in real life. The next day, around 2 p.m., Jason stood in the driveway of Joey's house, staring up at his window. After a few moments, Joey's mother walked out slowly, calling his name. Jason? Jason, come here, sweetie. It's all right. She looked sober for a change. Jason could recall a time when she was actually nice, like his mother. It was good to catch a glimpse of that from her again. He walked over, stopping at the screen door. She opened it, motioning for him to come inside. He's been asking about you since he woke up. How is he? His concern for his best friend touched the heart of Celeste. He's good. He also keeps asking about Sarah. She paused. They took her to the hospital last night, and they were going to do a complete psych evaluation in a day or two. Jason nodded his head. Thanks, Mrs. Mayer. Can I go up? Sure, but not for long. He needs to rest, she said calmly. Jason headed upstairs. Joey's bedroom door had a picture of a kitten looking into a mirror, with a lion staring right back. It read, "The only thing that matters is how you see yourself." He thought of how Joey had slowed down Sarah's parents when they were chasing him. He would be dead if Joey hadn't done that. He smiled and knocked on the door. "Come in," Joey shouted from his bed. "Hey, there's the man of the hour," Jason joked. "Hey, what's up, man?" Joey asked. "Blood pressure?" Jason said with a laugh. Joey smiled. "So, you doing okay?" "Yeah, they want me to rest for today. The ambulance guy said I needed to," Joey explained. Jason nodded. "Hey, your mom is sober." "That's good." Joey smirked. "Yeah, it is. I hope she stays that way this time." "Yeah," was all Jason could say. "Hey, there's a new kid who moved in today down the street from me. I met him this morning. His name is Charlie. He's from San Antonio." With a surprised look, Joey said to him, "Shit, no more new kids today, Jason. Maybe tomorrow." Sarah smiles. Two hearts that beat as one, Sarah thought to herself as she looked out of the backseat window of the moving Volvo. It was November now, 3 months since the events of August 12th in the small quaint town of Little, Texas. 3 months of psych evaluation and treatment is what they called it. She was finally on her way back after believing she would never see that place again, or Joey, or his crazy friend Jason. Although she had only met with Joey on 4 occasions, the last time under very strange circumstances, there was something between them. They had both cried upon her departure. Joey's last words to her were, "I'll wait for you." She had thought of him often while she was away. Their third encounter was special. They were alone, without Jason. It was the day they shared a kiss, her first real kiss. Joey mentioned that he wouldn't say anything to Jason, since he seemed to like her too. She recalled Joey's adorable question afterward. "Would you be my girlfriend?" She felt butterflies in her belly and warmth in her heart. She told him, "Let me think about it," though inside she was saying, "Yes." Some days were tough, coming to terms with who she really was as a person after 13 years of worshiping the devil, only to learn she would one day become a sacrifice in his name. Accepting what happened to her and moving on with her life wasn't easy. However, she was strong enough now. Thankfully, she had help in the recovery process. Daily sessions with Dr. Leibowitz, hours of talking, sharing, and learning. After hearing her life story, he was in awe of just how strong this remarkable girl was. Sarah lived life to the fullest extent her restrictions would allow her to do. She lived by the rationale that she never knew when each day was her last. In doing this, she developed a bold, lively, outgoing personality. The lack of a social filter enabled her to become a realist. There was no beating around the bush with her. During the investigation of Sarah's family background, it was discovered that she was stolen as a baby by the so-called parents that treated her like a slave. The way it turned out was that this fiendish couple had targeted and murdered Sarah's mother and father in their home and kidnapped Sarah, keeping her until the day she would become an offering to Satan, like they had done with another child, a baby boy named Jimmy Lee. She did have to come to terms with what happened to her real parents. She had missed out on so much. For a while, she was angry at the fact she could have had a different life had she never been kidnapped. Next came the mourning period, until, finally, acceptance. She felt nothing for her pseudo-parents. 2 things about her were off, though. Since she had no real friends growing up, she conversed with people who were dead. She confided in the doctor that she could see the spirits of those who had passed on. She claimed that when growing up, her only friend was the spirit of Jimmy Lee. She claimed he told her about Joey and Jason and when they would be around. She now believes he was trying to help her escape. The second thing was that she never attempted to reach out for help or to escape. This was the only life she knew. Now she was headed to junior high school in Little, Texas as a new fish. She hoped that Joey and Jason would still accept her. Joey was her motivation for begging Dr. Leibowitz to allow her to go back to Little. He felt it may help her to close some old doors in her life and be near those who helped save her life. However, he was aware of Sarah's affections for Joey. He decided not to tell her about his disappearance during her treatment. It would have likely caused her to regress. Call it a soft spot he developed for her, or perhaps he felt she should hear this on her own, and that her resolve for progress should be tested. He arranged for her to stay with a foster family, at least for a while. She was tired of moving around so much. Little was going to be her new home. She was excited about the new possibilities of a new name, new identity, a new life. She imagined all the new friends she would make in school. She could now be the person she always longed to be. Sarah was the person her pseudo-parents wanted her to be. Now she had a new name and could start over. From now on, she would go by Chloe.